So we are recording. I think my whole head is in the shot, so let's go. Chin up and down, we're gonna loosen up. And incidentally, if you don't feel like exercising, just do the warm-up. I think I say this many, many times, but if you ever get up and you just really don't feel like exercising, just do this first little warm-up bit. I'm turning my head side to side. If you still don't feel like exercising when you're done, then stop. But you will at least have taken most of your major joints through their full range of motion. You will have loosened up the muscles. You will have drawn fluid into the joints. You will hopefully feel better for having done it. I'm going to do the head tilt and turn. So I'm going to tilt ear to shoulder, drop the chin to the chest, and roll the head around the other way. Ooh, that feels delicious. And then back to the other side. And I am trying to find the path that makes the least noise. So I'm really mostly rotating from right where the skull hits the neck. Beautiful, that feels pretty good. And then I'm going to start the reach. I've got thumbs forward, elbows mostly straight, and I'm reaching forward to just wherever the shoulder tells me to stop, right? So ideally, you're getting a nice open angle at your shoulder, but you're going to give it a few repetitions to loosen up. These first few moves are just to get us awake, get some blood flowing into the muscles, and to check in and see how things feel, right? Some mornings you wake up and something's cranky, and it's a really good idea to find out about it before we're moving quickly and before we've added weights on top of it. So now I've got my arms down here at my sides, and I'm just making small circles from the whole arm and shoulder. I'm really trying to get the shoulders loosened up here. Gentle circles. I'm tuning in, listening to see if anything is complaining. And then circle backwards. Excellent. Bring your elbows up so your arms make goalposts. And we're going to sweep the elbows together in front and open, pinch them together and back. So elbows front, you're stretching across your shoulder blades and back. When you pull the elbows open, you're stretching across the chest in front of the shoulders. This is a good move to do anytime during your day. If you've been at your computer for an hour, if you've been, hunched over a book, this move will help open things up. Beautiful. Relax, wiggle. Let's do some side bends. So stand up nice and tall, feet are about shoulder width apart, and I'm just going to gently bend side to side. And I'm starting small, giving things a chance to loosen up. As I'm bending, I'm thinking about staying as tall as I can rather than slumping down. Oh, that gets me a much nicer stretch that way. You might get some snaps and pops as things open up. Good, we're going to take the spine front to back now. So cat, cow, hands on your knees. Tuck your tailbone under. You'll feel a nice stretch right across your low back. And then just continue to arch your back, tuck your chin, point your belly button toward your nose, and reverse direction. Rock your pelvis so your belly button points at your toes and your tail is in the air and your head is up and chin is up. So this is the scary cat and this is the cow. Oh, and if you have any tightness in your low back, this will find it. So take your time with this, enjoy it. We want to be good and loose when we start working hard. So the warm-up is a good place to start, especially when you're doing this first thing in the morning. Beautiful. I'm coming back up to upright, keeping a wide-ish stance with my feet, and now taking the spine rotationally. So easy twist. I'm staying as tall as I can. As it feels looser, I might swing a little bit more enthusiastically as long as it doesn't hurt. Nice, that feels pretty good. I'm moving right into hip circles. So we circled the top part of the body. Now we're going to circle the bottom part. We're just doing hula hoop circles. Get a little more motion out of the hip joint. And switch directions. Beautiful. Hanging on to something if you need to. Let's do the single leg hip circle. So knee up, out, rotate, and pull it on through. So I'm basically drawing a circle in the air with my knee. I'm making that circle as big as I can without pain. So you may have just a little circle down here, or you may start small and be able to move into a bigger range as you loosen up. And then same leg, opposite direction. I do, when we're working out in the gym, I miss having the cat tree to hold on to. It really helps. Good, switching legs. Circle one way with the hip. And again, take your time, give it a chance to loosen up. Feel what's tight in there. We know we're often different, one side to the other. I'm switching directions. Excellent. And then coming down to the ankle, point and flex a couple of times, circle a little bit. Circle the other direction. It's amazing how much tension just settles into your muscles, but if you just move them a little bit, it'll often let go. I'm switching feet, point and flex, and circle. And reverse direction. So we've given everything a nice, pretty much head to toe warm up, loosened up all the big major joints. If you still don't feel like working out, don't, right? You're done. But if you do, then come right along. We're going back to the 70-second intervals, but fewer of them. And it's going to be just hard enough. So I'm going to hit go, and let's go to windmills first. So wide stance, wide wingspan, corset laced up, hip goes back, rotate over. Hip pushes forward to bring you back up. I really want you to think about having a broomstick down your back so that when you hinge at your hips, your spine stays straight. We're not curving. Stand as long and straight as we can. It's the hip that does the moving. So you'll feel the back of your legs tighten up. Those abdominal muscles are controlling the rotation. And you're more than halfway done. This is a really nice first interval because it feels like a warm up, but your heart rate still comes up a little bit. Really loosens up the whole backside of the body. Hopefully gets your glutes and hamstrings fired up and ready to go for the rest of the workout. I'm grabbing my weights. For the first weight interval, I'm going to do alternating hammer curl to press. So thumb to shoulder, press straight up, thumb to shoulder. I'm going to meet in the middle. So while one arm is going up, the other's going down. And I'm trying to really control the motion in both directions. You only have to press up as high as your shoulder wants to go. So stop before it hurts. And you're more than halfway through already. It's tricky to start so early with one that requires your brain to think and coordinate opposing motions, but I know you can do it. Good, there we go. That was it. Weights down, we're going to crickets next, which is really just a fancy word for squats with a reach. So wide stance with your feet, squat down, reach toward the floor, pop up, reach for the ceiling. The key thing is hips go behind your heels, and I'm trying to keep my torso pointed forward rather than tipping down. So keep your torso upright. That puts more of the work into your legs and hips, helps keep your back from getting too involved. We really want this to be about your lower body working. And you're more than halfway through. Of course, if you want, you can hop up at the top, but I don't know why you would. Maybe if we all had 30 or younger joints, that would be good. But you can reach up and get a lot of the benefit. Beautiful. Grab your weights. We're doing a rear fly next. So I have one in each hand, hinging at my hips. Squeeze the shoulder blades together in the middle of the back to get the arms to lift out to the sides. Like I'm flapping my wings. And I'm really trying to originate that motion in the middle of the back. So it's the shoulder blades squeezing together that pull the arms rather than the arms pulling the shoulders. You're more than halfway through. Beautiful. 10 more seconds. Remember, these are the bonus seconds. These are the 10 seconds you weren't doing at the beginning of the year, but you are now because you're that much stronger. Put your weights down and go into a hamstring curl. So you're stepping side to side, kicking yourself in the rear. I like to add that row with the arms. So you get upper body and lower body working together. As I kick myself in the rear, I'm trying to keep my knee pointed down. If it's tricky for you to balance doing this one, just hold on, right? Grab onto something. Make sure you're steady and stable. If you want it harder, take a little squat in between. There are lots of ways you can do this. You got 10 more seconds. Here's your bonus 10. If you're working hard today, sprint home. If you're barely holding on, just hold on. You got it. That was it. I'm going to take one weight in both hands. Take about a shoulder width stance with the feet, corset laced up. I'm going to reach out in front of me and paddle my stand-up paddle board. So I've got a soft bend in the hip and the knee. And I'm drawing that paddle from the front of the board to the back of the board, down one side. And then the other. So I want to keep that corset laced up. Anytime you're reaching forward with a weight, that puts a lot of strain on your low back if your abs are not engaged. So keep that belly button drawn in. Move with control, right? I wouldn't want to be doing this fast. That's a recipe for hurting yourself. Much more effective to really feel the pull of the water, dig in. Excellent, you're almost done. Beautiful, put your weight down. We're going into a squat with a side leg raise. I'm going to tuck my fingertips behind my ears just because that helps me keep my torso upright. As I come up, I'm going to lift one leg. Squat down, come up, lift the other leg. Squat down, leg lift, squat down, leg lift. Trying to keep my hips back and my torso pointed forward more than down. And so even though we're not moving super quickly, we're doing that entire body weight down and up, and you can feel your heart rate going up accordingly. It's a lot of work. And you're well more than halfway through. You're getting a little bit of balance as you stand there. It's all good. Last few seconds. You got it. You got it. I've got one weight in each hand. Palms facing behind me, elbows straight, corset laced up, lifting to the back. I like to hold for just a beat to feel the muscles work and then lower with control. So lift, get a good squeeze in the back of your upper arms, lower, but really try not to just drop them. Try to really have the weights under your control the whole time, even if it means you need lighter weights or no weight. And if you're not sure it's working, really just hold there for a second. You'll feel it pretty quickly. You're in the last 10 seconds. And if you don't feel it, then you probably need heavier weights. There you go. That's enough of that one. Let's do punches side to side. So soft bend in your knees and your hips. I'm punching to the corners. I like to take a little dip in between. The bigger the dip, the more your heart works, lifting and lowering your whole body. And so we're punching carefully. I'm not flailing, I'm placing. We don't want to throw out your elbows or your shoulders. And you can change your tempo up. You can make it a little bit faster, or just slow it down and make it bigger. We're just going to work around whatever you got going. Because everybody looks good and you're almost done. Last few seconds. These 70-second intervals are going so fast now. When we first started doing them, they were really hard. All right, with your weights, one in each hand. I have weights here in front of my thighs, knuckles facing out, corset laced up. I'm doing front raise to side raise. So knuckles up to the front, knuckles up to the side. And I'm thinking about reaching more so than lifting. So I'm reaching forward, the hands come up. I'm reaching hands apart and they come up. Don't forget, when the weights are away from your body, there's a lot of work that has to happen to stabilize your spine. So make sure your abs are helping, not just your low back. Get your belly button drawn in. Control it all the way down and all the way up. Put down the weights if you get tired, but you're almost done. Last 4 seconds. Beautiful. Outstanding. Ooh, step backs next. So feet together, big step back. Feet together, big step back. If you want, bend both knees so that you drop into a lunge. But that'll be a function of how cooperative your knees, hips, ankles, feet are. And as always, if you want more aerobic work, add some arms, just an easy reach forward or reach up. Get you a lot more aerobic work. There we go. Do this at a pace that feels safe and that you can control. If you're going down and up, you'll probably want to go slower than if you're just taking a step back. Beautiful. You're almost done. Nice, very nice. One weight in each hand. I'm turning palms away from me. Hinging at the hips, corset laced up, reaching out and squeezing the shoulder blades together and back to pull the weights up. A rowing motion, underhand grip. I'm keeping the elbows in close by my sides. I'm keeping my weight over my heels. And I'm really trying to, again, squeeze the shoulder blades to pull the arms. Working big muscles in your upper and mid back. And you're in your last 10 seconds. So really dig in, squeeze, and resist gravity on the downstroke. And you did it. That went so fast, I can't even believe it. You guys did great. So that's it for the intervals. You already did six pairs of intervals. So let's do a little balance work next. I think we're going to do in fact, I'm going to get a timer out for this. Let's do a 60-second hold. So point this at my feet so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to say you pick whether you want to do a half tandem stance where one foot is halfway in front of the other, but your feet are together, or whether you want to do a full tandem stance, heel toe, like you're walking on a tightrope. So there's a minute timer. So pick your poison, whichever one you want to try. And I've got a timer set for a minute and we'll just see how that goes. So while I'm doing that, I like to make sure I've got my weight centered over the 2 feet, that I have equal pressure on both feet. I like to tuck my tailbone under, suck in on my belly button, lift up tall, pull the shoulders back and down. And it helps to put your eye on the horizon. Look out there in the distance and keep your gaze there so that your brain knows that you're upright and okay and not fallen. And don't worry about twitching at your ankles. They're going to twitch, right? If you need to, hold on to something. But don't worry. You've got this. You're in the last 10 seconds. Can you keep holding? Outstanding. You guys are getting good. There you go. Okay, so whether you were in a tandem or a half tandem, we're going to put the other foot forward. It's almost always harder the second time, but we'll see. I'm going to start the timer. Weight centered over the 2 feet, tailbone tucked under a little bit, so I'm gripping just a bit with the glutes, belly button drawn in, tall posture, shoulders relaxed back and down, and holding, looking at a spot out on the horizon. This is great. I have my head cut off, so you guys can't see that I'm making faces. Just kidding. We're more than halfway through, but not quite almost done. So do your best, keep holding if you can, touch something if you need to for support. I know it seems dumb because you're never going to stand like this for 60 seconds, but you can feel the muscles that are involved in holding you. You're training those muscles for your real life work. Good, 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 good. Okay. That looks beautiful. I strongly recommend everybody do a little bit of balance practice every day. You know, find the place where it's challenging, hold on, feel your balance, feel the muscles that hold you. You maybe don't realize this, but we do a lot of work in this class to work on the muscles that are involved in balance. So even when you're not specifically practicing balancing, you are balancing. Anytime we're doing a one-legged move, oh gosh, all the ones we did today, the squat with the side leg raise, you're getting there. You're getting there just fine. So I'm coming down to the floor next. I'm going to start on one side, and I will meet you down there in just a bit. Let's see. That ought to work. I even ran the vacuum this morning so it wouldn't be so gross on the floor. That's a big deal. Okay, so we're doing a clamshell series today. Speaking of muscles that are involved in your balance, these muscles on the sides of your hips are really important for stabilizing your hips. And most of us have underdeveloped gluteus medius muscles because we do everything forward and we don't do a lot of side work. But that side work provides good stability. So I'm going to do, what do we have? A series of 4 clamshell exercises, by the end of which you will probably hate me, but hopefully not. So if you start with your legs straight and just pop your knees forward a little bit, keep your heels in line with your hips. So I've got a pretty open angle here at the hip, fairly open angle at the knee as well. And I like to roll slightly forward. I can brace my hand on the floor in front of me. That keeps me from rolling backward as I clamshell. We want to keep the hips vertical or possibly slightly forward. Right? So I'm just going to clamshell, feet together, knees apart. I'm not worried about how much distance I get here. I'm worried about how much squeeze I get up here. I'm thinking about twisting that thigh bone in the hip socket. So really give it a good squeeze and squeeze. Just like with so many of the other exercises we do, we want the origination of the motion to be close to the center of the body. Good, and I don't want to do too many of these because we have lots of variations, so let's move to the next one. So we started with this open angle at the hip and knee. I'm going to change that angle so that now I'm 90 degrees at the hip and 90 degrees at the knee, approximately. That may or may not show on the camera, right? But like you're sitting in a chair, so your knees came a little bit closer to you. Same move though, feet together, knees apart, and you'll feel it just changes where in the hip you get that sensation of contraction. So I'm still thinking about squeezing as I twist the thigh bone in the hip socket. And now instead of feeling it here on the side of the hip, I feel it more in the back side of the hip. Beautiful. That's probably enough. Let's bring the feet and knees back to that original, more open position. Heels in line with your hips. This time I'm going to keep my knees on the floor, but elevate my feet. So that's my starting position. From there, I'm going to clamshell the top leg. So I'm working to keep that bottom leg raised like that. And I'm clamshelling from that elevated position, which gives me a sensation of much more range of motion in the hip socket and quite a bit harder work. And since we've already pre-fatigued some of these muscles, you're probably wondering when we're going to stop. Not quite yet, just a couple more. Just until I feel like I really can't do one more, and then we're done. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, that was enough. Okay, you'll like the next one though. Internal clamshell, so it's a reverse clamshell. Same start position, knees together, feet apart. This time your thigh bone is turning toward the midline of your body. And that should actually feel good after those last three that we did. And again, you might have a very different range of motion here. You might not get much motion out of this move. Doesn't matter. As long as you feel that little bit of twist, you got it. And that is enough of that. Beautiful. That feels really fatigued. So I know we did good work. I'm going to flip over and do it on the other side. So regular clamshell first. Let's see. Let's see if I can actually get in the shot so that you can see all of me. So heels in line with hips, slightly open at the hip and the knee, and clamshell, feet together, knees apart. Twisting the thigh bone in the hip socket, but again, trying not to roll the pelvis backward as I do this. I'm keeping the pelvis still. Let the thigh bone do the moving. Twist and squeeze. Squeeze it. Beautiful. Let's do just one more. And then move to the 90-degree angle. So knees come forward, hips and knees 90 degrees. That's a better angle for seeing that. And then we open at the knees. Feet together, knees apart. Feel the motion, feel the action, the contraction move a little bit farther back in the hip. Good. Good. We're almost to the point where I can't do any more. That feels like enough. That'll do. So back to that first clamshell position. Heels back in line with your hips. This time, knees stay on the floor, but feet are elevated, and we lift from there. We clamshell from that elevated position. So there's a little bit of work in the lower leg just to keep it elevated. And there's a whole lot more work in the upper leg, because you've got a much bigger range of motion to work through. And you're really working against gravity. And you are really wishing this would be over. I can pick up the vibe right from your heads. Oh, I'm so with you. Put your legs down and let's do the internal clamshell. Knees together, feet apart. And that will feel good. So these clamshells, they work the gluteus medius on the side of the hip, but they also work some of the deeper hip rotator muscles. We don't talk about the hip rotator cuff because the structure of the joint is a little bit different than the shoulder rotator cuff, but similarly, you have small muscles right up against the bone that help stabilize that joint. And so those exercises are really helpful for that. So that's all the clamshells. Let's move on to our backs. Oh, we won't have to do both of these. We'll just do one so that we can still stretch. Let's do the, we did plenty of squats and lunges. Let's do just the isometric dead bug, I think. So lying on your back, nice long straight spine, feet on the floor, knees bent, and then I'm going to take my right hand and press it against my left knee. So I'm pressing the two together here, just enough to feel a contraction in the belly. I'm going to bring other hand and knee up. Let's see if I have enough space to do this. So holding the squeeze on the right hand, left knee, I'm going to just extend right leg, left arm, and back to center. Keeping the belly button drawn in and trying to keep that bottom rib attached to the floor. So I'm drawing my rib cage down into the mat, drawing the belly button down. I'm not pressing hard here at my hand and knee, just enough to get a contraction and hold it. You don't have to press hard for this move to be hard. Let's do one more on this side and take a quick break in the middle, and then we'll switch sides, left hand to right knee, get a little contraction going, belly button in, rib cage down, and then we'll extend right arm, left leg, and back to center. So hold that little squeeze on the diagonal and extend the opposite limbs. Yeah, buddy. You don't have to do a lot of these because they're hard. You don't have to do 20 ab exercises if you do one really good one. Oh, that feels like enough. Beautiful. Nice job. But don't get comfortable on your back. Let's roll over onto hands and knees and we'll start stretching from there. Because cat-cow is my favorite signal for the beginning of the good stuff. So I'm on hands and knees, nice tabletop position. And now you can really see the cat with the arched back and the cow with the sagging belly. So think about lengthening from head to tail. Trying to get each vertebra in your spine to move a little bit. And letting the muscles that run up and down the sides of your spine just get long and loose, responsive. Beautiful. We did a lot of hip work today, so I am going to do the pigeon pose. So from hands and knees, I'm drawing my right knee to my right wrist and sliding my right foot over to the left. And then I'm just going to set back into my hip. So I'm trying to keep my hips pointed straight ahead rather than letting them drift out to the sides. So bring them back forward and sit back however far you can, right? Your knee might limit you, your hip might limit you. Find a position that is not painful. So, tricky to discern that sometimes. There's often not a big distance between uncomfortable and painful. You definitely want to be more on the side of uncomfortable, less on the side of painful. And my rule of thumb is if the discomfort doesn't start to settle out after a couple of breaths, then it's closer to pain and I want to back off a little bit. So it sometimes takes a little time for the muscles to relax. But if they don't, feel free to just dial down the stretch a little bit. To come out of this, I'm going to push myself forward, untangle, start back on hands and knees, and same thing on the left side. So left knee to left wrist, left foot slides over to the right, and I'm settling back into my hip. So I've got a lot of external rotation on this hip. And I've got the back leg extended, so I'm stretching the front of the hip on the back leg, which is something most of us need to do more of because we sit too much. So take a few nice deep breaths, just tune in, feel the places that are tight, see if you can invite them to let go. And then to come out, push forward, come back to hands and knees, and we'll settle into child's pose. So I like toes together, knees apart. That's a little bit easier for the hips, but you figure out what works for you. Tailbone tucks, and you sit back toward your heels, lower down to your forearms, maybe down to your forehead. And just take a second and get yourself settled. Wiggle around as much as you need to. Notice things like, wow, my right shoulder feels a lot tighter than my left in this position. I wonder what's going on there. My knee doesn't like the pressure on it. The top of my ankles are uncomfortable. Whatever you've got going, just acknowledge it first and then take a deep breath. See if it will just let go on its own. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you need to shift a little bit. But let this be the start of the resting. And push forward to come out. Push back up to hands and knees and come around to seated. Oh, let's see. Let's try a hamstring stretch with both legs forward. So again, if your hamstrings are super tight, you will probably want to be seated up on a bench or a stool or the edge of your coffee table. If you can, do it flat on the floor. But even just sitting like this with a 90-degree angle at your hips is a good stretch for your hamstrings. That's pretty normal, right? To be able to hinge forward from there is actually even more stretch than you need. So if you can, hinge a little forward from your hips. If you're keeping your spine straight, you'll feel you don't go very far. right? Your hamstrings will stop you. And then if you want additional stretch up your back, then you can start to curve forward, and this will stretch the muscles that run up the sides of your spine as well as the hamstrings. And so that can feel good. I often don't do this part because too many folks do the upper back part without getting the hips in position to really stretch the hamstrings first. So just hold wherever is comfortable. Couple nice deep breaths. Hopefully you can actually feel some of the tension let go as you hold. Especially if you're breathing. And then you're in a very stretched position here, so suck in on your belly button before you push back up to upright. Just give the spine a little bit of support from the front so that you don't end up straining anything. And then let's come into the cobbler's pose. Soles of the feet together. Slide your feet in toward your body if you can. Your knees will have a say in that. Your inner thighs will have a say in that. Your hips will have a say in that. There's a lot of stuff going on. So wherever you are comfortable is just right. And sometimes I like to just wiggle, right? The wiggling helps anything that's seized up let go. And once again, I like to sit up nice and tall. And you may be able to start to fold forward over your lap. Your inner thighs may say, no, thank you. We have a very polite relationship with our muscles. We ask them kindly to do things, and sometimes they decline to do those things, and that's okay. But we're all very civilized about it. Beautiful. Let that go. Let's come on to the back. Excellent. All right, let's do the figure four. Actually, we'll do the figure four first. One foot on the opposite knee. So I've got foot on the floor, knee bent, other foot up. I'm waggling that knee a little bit to loosen up the hip. If you think you want a deeper stretch in the hip of this top leg, then thread the needle with your hands and pull those legs in toward you. And decide where feels good. This is a nice stretch to do after all those clamshells. So if you're sore tomorrow, do a little bit of this stretch. You'll appreciate it tomorrow for sure. So then I'm going to back off that just a little bit and then bring the legs across the body. So anchor my arms to the sides, rotate over. And now the stretch has shifted to this upper and outer side of my hip. And I'm just going to pause there for a little bit, let that all relax. And then suck in on the belly button, pull the legs back to center and switch. Foot on the opposite knee, waggle the knee a little bit. Think about how that feels. If that's enough stretch, just stay there. But if you want more, pull the legs in toward you. And give it a little bit more stretch. Then I'll ease out of that just a little bit before I rotate over. So I'm keeping both shoulders on the floor and letting one hip roll to one side. So big stretch down the side of the hip. Pause for a little bit, give it time to relax. And then belly button draws in so you can pull back to center and bring your feet wider than your hips. So feet are wider than your hips and knees, and we're going to windshield wiper those knees, both to one side, both to the other side. And again, this should feel good after all those clamshells because we're stretching out those internal and external hip rotator muscles. So I'm just kind of loosey-goosey. If you feel a tight spot and you want to kind of dig in a little bit, you can. Or you can just focus on keeping it loose and smooth and letting go. Beautiful. That feels pretty darn good. Okay. I'm going to stretch out on my back and get nice and long and take just a couple of minutes in most rested individuals. So, shoulders rolled back to the floor. I've got palms up, arms out. I'm just going to slow down my breathing a little bit. Notice things like, why does everything feel completely asymmetrical today? Twitch around a little bit, settle down again. Slow, deep breaths, drawing your energy back into yourself. Pulling your thoughts back into your body. Tuning into the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat. Maybe your heartbeat starts to slow down a little bit now that we're not moving. Maybe you can feel the muscles growing softer and heavier as they relax in place. And you are just floating in this perfectly still oasis of calm and peace, which is a perfect place to launch your day. Let's hope that's a harbinger of the quality of the rest of your day. Peaceful and calm and energized just below the surface. And whenever you're ready, you can start to wiggle fingers and toes and reach and stretch a little bit. And you did it. Another good, pretty hard workout. Nicely